ज्ञानतिमिरस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome to the Manah Shiksha series every Friday, Saturday and Sunday morning. Yesterday we began discussing one of the last and the deep-rooted anarthas one has to overcome in order to attain Krishna Prem. And that is Pratishta Asha. So it's a beautiful verse, Raghunath Das Goswami is saying, Pratishta Asha Društva Swapachiramani Meridhi Nate Katam Sadhu Premna Sprishati Suchire Tannanumana Sada Tvam Sevasya Prabhudaita Samantam Atulam Yathatam Nishkasya Varitam ihatam veshayati sa. So the Pratishta Asha is compared to a unchaste dog-eating woman who is dancing in our heart. That desire for Pratishta is like you have that desire, then there is a prostitute who is sitting in your heart. She is not an ordinary prostitute, she is a dog-eating prostitute. So how dirty she is, you can imagine. And Katam Sadhu Prerna, when such a prostitute is there in your heart, so how that pure lady, chaste lady of love, Premna, will come and inside, reside. She will not even touch you. Sprishati, she will not even touch, come near you. Suchir etan nanumana, oh my dear mind. Therefore, what? What is the solution? This is the anartha. The artha is sadatvam. Always serve that Atulam, incomparable, pure devotee of the Lord, the commander-in-chief of Krishna's army, who will throw away this unchaste woman and establish Tam Veshayati Saha. He'll establish the chaste lady of pure love in our heart. So we saw this graphically, how this unchaste lady, you can see there is dog meat and she is dancing, and the chaste lady of love, they leave the heart. And not only this prostitute is alone dancing, prostitutes get their lover. And this lover, that illicit lover, is kapata. So because we have the desire for pratishta, we act duplicitously. Those actions, kapata and kutinati. Kutinati, we discussed in the last verse, how it is activities based on duplicity. And she will, with the lover, be there, and she'll produce children in the form of all other anarthas. All other anarthas. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur commentary yesterday we saw, and today we will see the commentary of His Holiness Shivram Swami Maharaj, which is very much in line and similar to the explanation of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. His Holiness Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj has given a very extensive commentary, and that we will be discussing in at least 3 to 4 classes. So today we will cover Shivram Swami Maharaj commentary. Okay. Pratishta means fame and Asha means desire. So Pratishta Asha means the desire for fame. Our desire for fame is like Drishtva Swapachi Ramani, a bold outcast woman. So this desire is figuratively compared to an unchaste dog-eating prostitute. And what does this outcast woman do? She is a swapacha, a dog eater. So she is eating dog's flesh in my heart. So she is eating dog flesh where? Right in your heart. Can you imagine? So this is how graphically Raghunath Das Goswami is bringing this, so that we can also think when this kind of a desire comes, how we should reflect. Immediately this word should come to our mind. That is the actual meaning here. And she's dancing at the same time. So she's not only eating dog meat, and she's dancing in the heart, having a great party. Dancing around in such a frivolous mood and having a great time. And in one hand is the dog's leg. She's chewing. And as she's dancing in my heart. So she's dancing in a very frivolous mood. She's having a great time. She's holding a dog's meat, especially a dog's leg in one hand. And at the other end also, she is dancing. But she didn't get in there by accident. I invited her in. I opened the door. I opened the door because of the desire for Pratishta. I said, yes, please come in. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that this is what happens after repeated attempts to weed out deceit while still hankering for honor and distinction. So if you remember in Manah Shiksha, 6th verse, we were discussing about Kapata Kuti Nati. Ore chet Kapata Kuti Nati Bharakhara. No. Ore chet Prodayet Kapata Kuti Nati Bharakhara. Sharan Mutre Snatva Dahasi Katam Atmanapimam. So there Raghunath Das Goswami is very heavily addressing the mind. O Rechet, O ruffian mind, Prodayet, you are, why are you carrying this deceit, Kapata and Kutinati? And he's comparing it to a Bharakhara, a great ass. You are actually bathing in donkey's urine. So one who is trying to weed out deceit, but while trying to weed out deceit, he still maintains the desire for Pratishtasha. That means what is happening? Deceit is not going out, because still that subtlest of the anartha in the form of Pratishta Asha is still dancing, who is a Ramani, who is a Swapacha Ramani, and she is dancing in the heart. And that's why deceit is not going out. Because we discussed how this unchaste prostitute will invite her lover in the form of deceit. Such a graphic picture is being painted here of the problem. So this graphic picturization of things, because usually in our memory, the images are stored in one particular side of the brain, and the words are stored, like shabda are stored in another side of the brain. And it is easy, when you see a person and you ask what is your name, and he'll tell the name. Next time when you meet him, you might not remember his name, but your image of that person is there in the memory. So the images get stored very quickly. So similarly, this graphic uh, visualization will immediately, when this Pratishta Asha comes out, we should imagine immediately, oh, in my heart, this prostitute is dancing now. And the solution is also given. So the solution is very simple. We have to serve the pure devotees of the Lord. Daitya, Prabhu Daitya Atulam Sevasya. This is the only means to drive this problem out. So this is the only way. There's no other way. There is a scientific process of how the transcendental Vishuddha Sattva potency in the heart of the pure devotee is able to penetrate our hearts. So now Maharaj will go into the process of how, by serving these pure devotees who are situated on the transcendental platform, the Ladini Shakti, which is there in the heart, transforms to our heart. And that's how our heart can get purified from such weeds and such desires. Bhaktivinoda Thakur spoke about it in his commentary. Maharaj is going to elaborate upon it. In other words, we are now dependent on mercy. We could not do anything on our own. Now we are very much dependent on mercy from others who will actually eliminate and eradicate this problem from the heart. They'll eradicate this problem from the heart. Desire for pratishtha, distinction, fame, honor, position, especially in spiritual circle, just hangs in there. Especially in spiritual circles. Please mark this and remember. In material circles, it is there. They are striving. That is the goal of their life. But in spiritual circles, it is there. And His Holiness Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj will bring out in his commentary how these kind of desires are there in the spiritual circles. He's going to give some examples which will make it more emphatic. It is very tenacious, excruciatingly difficult to get out. So to remove this desire from the heart is very, very, very difficult. It is the last of the enemies that we subdue. And why it is the last? Because it is the greatest obstacle. So you might think that the 6 enemies headed by lust, anger are great obstacles. Subtler than that, we saw Kapat and Kutinati, and the subtlest among all is Pratishta Asha. So if you uproot Pratishta Asha, Kutinati is gone, and then what to speak of the 6 enemies? We are allowing this shameless personality to come within our heart. The nature of this obstacle is that it very conveniently overlooks its own evil influence. So this is the nature of this Pratishta Asha. It overlooks its own evil influence. And Maharaj is going to narrate a story to explain this. There is a clear example of this, not a nice example, but a clear one, and that is Duryodhana. So whenever the Lord enacts pastimes, leelas, he gives very extreme examples to drive the point. So there is the highest personality, Yudhishthira Maharaj, who could never see fault in others, but only see fault in himself. And there is that extreme personality, Duryodhan, who would only see fault in others and see no fault in himself. So these extreme examples are given through the Lord's pastimes in his Leelas to drive the point home for us. That's why all these examples are extreme in the, whether it is the Ramayana or the Mahabharata or the Bhagavatam. So that's why conditioned souls, cannot learn these lessons easily. And that's why such extreme examples are given. Now, here is the example of Duryodhan. When he was approached by Krishna after the Pandavas ended their exile, Krishna asked him, make a truce, make a compromise, give them 5 villages and finish the whole thing. You cannot prosecute your cousins this way. He just asked for 5 villages because they are Kshatriyas and they need a Kshetra to rule. Duryodhan's response was, I am a Kshatriya. I am the king of the land. I am the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He said, I looked into my heart very deeply for any trace of flaw, imperfection, pride, or arrogance to see if I have actually done anything against the Pandavas which is adharmic. And I have come to the conclusion that I am completely flawless in this regard. And right from birth, Duryodhan was scheming to finish the Pandavas. Right from birth. Just when they were children playing in the Gurukul, Bhishma was poisoned, Bhima was poisoned. So right from childhood, he was hatching conspiracy to finish the Pandavas, and ultimately it culminated in the gambling match, and they were exiled. And now this is what Duryodhan is saying. Therefore, don't push me. Don't ask me to give 5 villages. Imagine completely overlooking one's own degraded and fallen position. Why? I am now pretending something I am not. So we spoke about that disguise, how Hanuman had taken a disguise of a Brahmana and he could not recognize his Lord, worshipful Lord. So we start to pretend something else. This is Kapatakutinati. And I'm so convinced that I will walk naked on the street. Everyone knows the story of the emperor without any clothes. Ultimately, he became so convinced of his position, and his followers were so convinced that even though he is completely naked, he thinks, I have the best clothes. I am wearing the best of all robes, king's robes. Fame is like a dog's flesh. And if you run after the flesh of a dog, it means I want to become famous as a great devotee. There is a nice example from the life of Madhavendra Puri. When Shir Chora Gopinath specifically stole kheer for him and sent it out via his own pujari, the Lord told the pujari, take the sweet rice out to Madhavendra Puri. When Madhavendra Puri received that sweet rice and ate it, he thought, as soon as everybody hears of this event, they are going to come after me thinking I'm a great devotee. So immediately he ran away. So first of all, he was in ecstasy when the pujari came and gave the sweet rice, and he immediately relished the Mahaprasadam. He broke the mud pot, made it into pieces so that he can preserve it and always relish it, tied it in the cloth, but immediately a thought came. Now the entire village is going to come that the Lord stole kheer for me, Madhavendra Puri. So I will become famous. So immediately he left that place. Immediately he left that place. So this is how pure devotees are. And Fame actually follows a pure devotee like a shadow. He wants to be away, but fame always follows him because Krishna, takes care of his pure devotees. Krishna wants that the fame of his pure devotees spread, his glories of his pure devotees spread, so that more and more can take shelter of him. In fact, about the six Goswamis, it is mentioned, Dhira, Adhira, both the Dhira and Adhira were attracted to him. So Krishna, when he comes in this world, incarnates in this world, only the Dhira are attracted. The Adhira become disturbed and they want to kill. And that's why so many demons attack Krishna. But the glory of his pure devotees is that even the Adhira, they also become attracted to a sadhu. Whereas with Krishna, they might attack him and they might try to kill him. And all the demons in Krishna Lila do that. So this is the glory of his pure devotees. This is the glory of his pure devotees. So, but the pure devotees, they don't, aspire for this desire for Pratishtha. They stay away from it. He left town so that no one would come and recognize him or try to offer respect and praise him. That is the mentality of a real Vaishnava. So it is basically our attitude, our mentality. We have to develop this right attitude. And Prabhupada's statement in the Nectar of Instruction is advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. So even if we give a nice class and devotees come and praise us, when we hear that praise, if we feel like poison, then we are properly situated in the right mentality. But if our ego is saying, wow, you're rejoicing in the heart and you know what is happening in your consciousness. If you're rejoicing in the heart, then you should understand who is dancing in your heart. That unchaste lady, dog-eating prostitute. She is dancing there. So we should try to cultivate this mentality. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, I am lower than Jagai and Madai. I am like a worm in stool. Can you imagine somebody feeling like this? A worm in the stool. If somebody even chants my name, that person becomes fallen. He's thinking like that because that's what it means to be a real Vaishnava. So this is who is a real Vaishnava. He's just not writing it, but actually thinks and feels it. He actually thinks and feels it. And we discussed in the last class about it also quite elaborately. How that feeling is there in the heart. It's not just, in words. That is how exalted they are. So the greater the advancement one makes, the more fallen one considers. This is completely, a paradigm shift in the material world, in the material consciousness. In the material consciousness, the greater one advances in higher position, what happens? The more the pride he develops. And in spiritual life, the greater one advances, what happens? The more humility he develops. The genuine humility of the soul he develops. And this is the difference between a Mahabhagavat and a neophyte or a Kanishtadhikari. A neophyte, in a day, once he remembers Krishna and he thinks he's very advanced. For a moment, he remembers Krishna and he thinks he's very advanced in spiritual life. Whereas a Mahabhagavat, for a moment, he forgets Krishna. He considers himself, I'm very, very fallen. Even for a moment, if he forgets Krishna. So that is the difference, heaven and hell difference in the consciousness of a advanced devotee and a neophyte. This image here in this verse is this shameless prostitute, a dog flesh eating prostitute dancing in the heart, but she isn't alone. The prostitutes cannot be alone. They need their partner, illicit lover. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in his song commentary, who does she dance with? She dances with her lover. And what's her lover's name? Kapatya Tata Tada Upapati. Deceit is her paramour. So now you understand the connection between Pratishta Asha and deceit. Kapatata. After the party, they are all in for the evening. And what is the byproduct? Naturally, they start to beget children such as himsa, violence, ill will. So this all other anarthas come out. Violence and ill will become a byproduct of that little party in the heart. Therefore, ultimately, this dance of the prostitute and her lover will destroy all good virtues in the heart and will fill the heart with beauty. So what happens? What is the result? All the good virtues in the heart will go away and the heart will become cruel. One will become a cruel-hearted person. One has to be very careful not to allow these things to remain. Therefore, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, better that I am in the association of those who are pointing out my faults and helping me to maintain a humble attitude than to be with those who praise me. So this is a reflection and a nice meditation. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's statement this is. During the Gaudiya Mutt, especially in his headquarters, there was one very aristocratic, well-known Bengali personality who was, very learned. And he used to come and visit Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and sit right in front of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and criticize him and find faults with him. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, allowed him, and he used to be in his company. All the other disciples, the sannyasis, they were really very upset with this person. How dare he can come and, uh, speak about our Guru Maharaj right in front of him. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur absolutely did not mind. And he used to repeatedly come to the Gaudiya Mutt and do this. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was happy and jolly and, allowed him to take his association. And everyone used to be upset with him. At last, this person left the world, and all in the Gaudiya Mutt were happy and rejoicing, whereas Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was morosing. Not like, he was lamenting. I had a real well-wisher. He was my real well-wisher. And nobody could understand what is Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur saying. So then Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur quoted, Suridam Sarva Bhutanam. He was my actually real friend. Because by pointing out my faults, he was helping me to maintain an humble attitude. Whereas those who praise me, actually they will inflate my false ego. Better let me have a humble attitude. So sometimes, now all devotees cannot take really this. If you are surrounded with always those who are, on your case, then you might go into negativity and it will become difficult for you to practice spiritual life. And on the other hand, if you are surrounded with, all your chelas in around, you will be, in a very, very dangerous position. That's also not good. And I have repeatedly observed, this is my observation, take it in the right spirit. Any brahmachari who is, doing a little bit youth preaching and he has got a small circle and he's always surrounded with a small circle of devotees and they, think he's a very exalted preacher and he's, he's a well-wisher and they keep on praising him. They are always in this circle and they get carried away. So one should be very, very careful also to introspect himself and to train those who are under him. And this is a reflection, and this statement has to be meditated on Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So any questions or clarifications up till this point? Yes, Sunita Mataji.
Hare Krishna,
Yes.
Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, I had this question that how to take this chastity?
Chastity. Which
Practically,
chastity?
someone chastising us, how
Ah,
to
I thought chaste. Chaste means different. Chastisement, you
defend
mean?
this chastising?
Yes, yes. So
Practically,
usually, uh, uh, it is difficult for the conditioned soul because it is difficult for the false ego, and that's why one should, you know, reflect on the statements of the Shastras, reflect on the pastimes the Lord exhibited in his Chaitanya Charitamrita, and after reflecting on it, discuss with the counselor and get a right understanding and actually start working on it. I'm just giving you one example of Ramchandra Puri, who found fault with the spiritual master and committed an offense. And then he started finding fault with all Vaishnavas and started criticizing all Vaishnavas. Ultimately, he came to Gambira. He used to repeatedly come to the Gambira to find some fault with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord himself. And one day he saw ants were crawling near his Gambira, small kutir. And see, ants are there. That means the sannyasi is eating sweets. Just see, the sannyasi is in the renounced order and is attached to eating sweets. So when Mahaprabhu heard, he took a very humble attitude and he accepted, although it was wrong, he accepted that, although it was wrong, he accepted that and immediately he reduced his food by half. So Mahaprabhu is teaching by his own example that one should maintain a humble attitude when we are chastised. We should not go in a defense mode. Other Vaishnavas' duty is that they should protect us. I remember I just joined the Brahmacharya ashram. This is 21 years back. I joined the Brahmacharya ashram and I was given kitchen seva. I did not know anything in the kitchen. So I was told to cut the vegetables. I did not know how to cut the vegetables also. And while cutting the vegetables on the second or the third day, the devotee cook was a very nice brahmachari, was an expert cook. He told, I'm going on top just to take bath. So kindly put this quantity of salt. He showed me. And I did as per his instructions. So that day, the prasad, when everyone had, there was a lot of salt. A lot of salt was there. And one of the other brahmacharis, uh, you know, came to know that I had actually put the salt quantity. So he came and very heavily chastised me. Why have you put extra salt? You don't understand. You don't realize. Because when there is too much salt, you can't eat also. So I was very new. I did not know anything. I just heard it. And another very senior devotee, "No, it's okay, it's okay, why get heavy about it? And you only put the salt twice. That was the acquisition. I said, no, I did not put. No, no, you only put. He said, I just heard it. I kept silent. And later on, I said, okay, maybe I put it. Later on, it was that, this devotee cook himself, after taking bath, he came and again had added salt, although he had instructed. So sometimes, even if we are wrong, or even if we are right, sometimes when this chastisement comes to us, it is meant for our purification. We should see Krishna's hand in it and we should work on it internally. Krishna is helping us to purify because only in the association of the devotees, our ahankar gets purified. So if we are sincere, then we should, reflect upon it, immediately don't react, and slowly see from the light of Shastra, Guru, Sadhus, and then, these kind of instructions and statements of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur help us to, how to come to that platform. So this is what meditation we should always have. Yes, Dr. Archana Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Generally, it happens like I'll take the example of chanting the rounds, so it will make my point very clear. If I'm used to chant maybe 16 rounds, and sometime it happens that I can chant maybe more than 16 or 32 or 64 rounds. So other co-devotees, they definitely praise you. So
Yes.
at my level, as a neophyte, definitely I will definitely develop a pride. Or in other situation also, if some exalted devotee or the acharyas are there who are conducting nice lectures, and we have the tendency to praise them. So how to avoid or how to protect yourself?
Yes. So genuinely, now let us take the example of chanting. Actually, one's bhajan should be always kept confidential, and one should never speak out also. Oh, today I chanted 32 rounds. So moment you want to tell that I chanted 32 rounds, actually there is a subtle desire that oh, they should praise me. That is there in our heart, and slowly you'll start recognizing. And when others, when you're there is the asha, there is there. Dukkeshu anuvigna mana sukeshu vigata spruha. Sukeshu vigata spruha. Sukha means, you get a kind of a happiness. Of course, somebody tells, oh, good, you chanted today 32 rounds. So, moment you hear that, you feel a kind of happiness, and then there is a desire. Oh, let him start speaking more about my chanting. So, there that Pratishta Asha is now taking birth. That Sukeshu Vigata Spruha. Spruha means a desire. So, I know my false ego felt a kind of bliss. Now, let this bliss increase. Keep on continuing my praise. When you have that desire, then there is Pratishta Asha. So genuine appreciation, if somebody does, and that is, inspiring us to take more and more to spiritual practices, to go more deeper into spiritual practices, and they are our genuine well-wishers, that is okay. That is always okay. But in general, we should avoid. Now, in case of a lecture, yes, it is natural that those who heard the lecture and they got inspiration and they felt kind of a happiness in hearing Krishna Gatha, they will come and praise. But it is from the speaker's perspective how he should take it. He should, it should make him more humble. And if he has, the same desire, oh, let me give a class so that the devotees will come and praise, then, there is Sukeshu Vigata Spruha is there. So then he'll have to work on it. So we should also have a kind of circle of devotees in our group where there are genuine well-wishers and there are spiritual mentors in the form of Shiksha and Diksha Gurus, where we need their inspiration, because everyone needs a certain kind of inspiration to take up to higher and higher levels of Krishna consciousness. And genuine appreciation helps us, for us to that somebody is there to take care of me and somebody appreciates my service. And these Siksha Gurus or Diksha Gurus, when they speak, they genuinely speak from the heart, and it touches our heart, frankly speaking. So words which are spoken from the heart, genuine appreciation, they only touch the heart, not just spoken from the mouth, but from the heart. So that we should also be able to recognize and stay in that kind of an association, and always keep our bhajan confidential, and just in a humble attitude do our services, uh, not expecting any recognition like that. Yes, Ras Parani Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dandavad. Actually, whatever, as Maharaj has said, that he is speaking this in context of our dealings with the devotees. But there is a certain percentage specifically for grastas of the time of the day, in fact, most of it, when they are specifically into any profession or family life or whatever, that these type of situation comes on a material level also, when the other people who are not, maybe not devotees or whatever, they are chastising us, or all these things, situations come. So in this case, how are we supposed to how are we supposed to deal with that? Because that can harm
Yes,
us also at times on the material level.
yes. So that's why, even if it is coming in the material circles, uh, ultimately, from a devotee's perspective, whether it is the material or the spiritual circle or the material circle, both are the energies of the Lord. And from the Lord's perspective, it is one. So when Vidura was advising Dhritarashtra, and he said, your son, Duryodhan, he is going to become the cause of the destruction of an entire dynasty. He was very heavy. He was actually the well-wisher of Dhritarashtra. And Duryodhan, spoke very heavy words towards Vidura, and he said, I would have killed you, So better you take your pran and leave this place. So Vidura left the bow and he left. And he left on a pilgrimage. And there, he heard the Bhagavatam. So he saw this heavy chastisement as the energy of Krishna's energy, Maya's trick, for him to actually become more Krishna conscious. And he took that as an indication and he left. So that is for Vidura's case. And generally for devotees who are practicing in the material circle, that's why one needs a kind of a protection barrier. Needs to have a protection barrier so that many cannot intrude and take us lightly. And we also maintain a kind of a decorum in our dealings with those people, because we are in the material realm. And they know that, this person, he's of this nature and he has his, principles. So I cannot just, take them for granted. So we need to maintain that decorum in our material circle, so that, because too much attack happening, that will also disturb our activities, whatever we are executing for maintaining our body. And it will also come in the spiritual realm, that when we are practicing spiritual life, we still get affected of whatever has happened there in our material circle. So both the things have to be taken care. So like that, we need to balance. That is my understanding. Okay, after hearing Bhakti Siddhanta Sarvi Thakur, I think there were a lot of questions about this. But this is the ideal. Please, take a printout of this and stick it in your inside cupboard. Because real advancement will begin from here. Especially, if you want to make advancement, this is actually Krishna's mercy flowing. You can see that. It's very difficult to see like that. Okay, let's continue the discussion. Now we refer once again to these three sadhakas. So how this Pratishta Asha can come in these three sadhakas, the Swanishta, Parinishta and the Nirapeksh. Swanishta, Parinishta and Nirapeksh. What will happen to them if they also continue to harbor this deceit within their hearts and this desire for honor and distinction? This is subsequent to what we read in the previous verse. In the previous verse, we saw that how Kapat and Kutinati is there in these three categories. This Swanishta Bhakta, or the householder who is trying to be fully surrendered, who is fully engaged in preaching activities, starts to yearn for honor and manifests the hope of being seen as being a great religious leader, a very generous personality, and sinless. Now, I'm giving you some examples which I've personally seen. Take it in the right spirit. Many years back, I, with one of the leaders, was in one temple for a specific service. And there was one, speaker who is a kathakar, who was giving katha on the pastimes. And I heard that lecture and I was little not satisfied in the heart, because the way the narration of the katha was happening is to not to bring out the pure teachings of the Bhaktivedanta purports, but there was so many other masala added, what you say, in Hindi. And later on, this Kathakar came and met our leader with whom I was, and he was expressing the desire that I want to become a guru. Although he was a grahastha, I could recognize it. And, he was speaking about it, I have a lot of following. I want to, my spiritual master is not ready to give me, the position of a guru. But after a few years, I heard that, because he was not getting that recognition, he moved out and started his own, movement. And it was a deviation. He is completely deviated now. So, even one who is surrendered, who is doing preaching activities, he has a desire to become a great religious leader, a great personality. All this is there. He wants recognition for his position. I need the position of a guru. The Parinishta devotees nicely following the rules of bhakti, worshipping the deity in their home and working in whatever particular way. They want to be recognized also as great devotees, to be seen very detached and very knowledgeable. So even if you have great knowledge of Shastra and you're giving classes, and you're, having a certain level of detachment, but still this Pratishta Asha is there. And the Nirapekshas are those who are in the renounced order, the sannyasis, are the same. Everyone should recognize that they have become pure devotees. They are completely detached. They understand the purport of all Shastras and being the master of all aspects of bhakti. So this is how Pratishta Asha in both the Swanishta, Paranishta and the Nirapeksha manifest. For all types of devotees, the problem is mainly always wanting recognition. This is the main problem. An important point is that Bhaktivinoda Thakur says this honor is one of the elements of deceit. So this Pratishta Asha is there, means there is this Swapachi Ramani, and the Swapachi Ramani is there. That means her illicit lover is also there. In the form of kapata, deceit. So this honor is an element of deceit. He says deceit can be rooted out to the proportion one is free from this desire for honor. So how can deceit be rooted out? To the degree you are free from the desire for honor. To that degree, deceit is rooted out. So to the degree we are actually free from this honor, to that degree, the deceit will actually leave the heart. And the heart is like a cup. If you have a cup of ink and if you just keep pouring in milk, then ultimately all the ink will be out. So the ink is in the form of all these dirty desires in the heart, and you start pouring milk with like the pure holy names, the pure humility, genuine qualities, then automatically the ink will be out. Therefore, what we want to fill the heart's cup with is pure devotional service rendered with humility. So this is the pure milk we need to pour in the heart. Here specifically, what is being stated is that one should serve the pure devotees. So by serving the pure devotees, it's like pouring milk. So he says, Katam sadhu premna sprishati. Sprishati means touch. He says that this sadhu premna, love of Godhead, will not even touch us. What to speak of entering the heart, it will not even touch us. Not to mention, we will not get it. We won't even be able to touch it. We won't touch it. It will not touch us as long as our consciousness is contaminated by this desire for honor. What to do? The verse says, Sadatam Sevasya. Always serve Prabhu Daita Samantam, the pure devotees of the Lord who are Atula, who are pure. Then Nishkashya Tvaritam. They will very quickly kick out all these impurities, and Veshyati, they will establish Sadhu Premna, that pure love. So it is they who can do this magic. It's only they who can do this magic. So, Sada Sevasya, we should always serve the devotees because serving Vaishnavas induces humility. Please mark this point. If we just stick to Vaishnav Seva, slowly, Dainya Bhav, humility will come. Even if we don't have humility now, if you serve devotees, you will become humble. Because that is the Swarup of the Jiva. Jivara Swarupa Krishna Nitya Das. You will naturally become humble. The serving mood, the mood of humility, is the antithesis of pride and desire for honor. So this is the medicine which we need to do. It neutralizes and destroys them. Serve those who are very dear to the Lord. Prabhu Daitya. Daitya means those who are very, very dear to the Lord, very priya to the Lord. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that the heart of the pure devotees are saturated with Ladini Shakti, and when we serve them, they become compassionate. So when we serve them, compassion flows from that heart, the pure spiritual compassion. The result of that compassion is they bestow their mercy on us. Anugraha. Bestowing mercy means that they transfer Ladini Shakti from their hearts. A ray of that potency becomes transferred to the heart of others, and the Ladini Shakti purifies all the contamination present in one's heart. So when they shower their merciful glance, Anugraha, by serving them, by that glance, a ray of that Ladini Shakti from their heart transfers to our heart, and our heart becomes purified. It not only purifies, also generates love, sadhu premna. It generates love towards sadhus. So we mentioned the expansive meaning of sadhu premna. Sadhu premna means having love for sadhus. If you have love for sadhus also and serve sadhus, you have sadhu premna then. And this prostitute is not there. This verse says this process happens immediately, tvaritam. It will happen quickly, but we must do it. We must do it. So, nishkashya tvaritam ihatam veshyahati sir. The association of devotees in the proper mood will expel all these unwanted qualities and will simultaneously give us access to love. Give us access to love. We can only get love of God from devotees. Maybe we can get it from Krishna, but that is very rare. So in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it is mentioned how we can get Bhava Bhakti by the mercy of the devotee and the mercy of the Lord. Mercy of the Lord is very, very rare. It's only by the mercy of the devotee that we can get sadhu premna. So how important it is for us to, serve those pure devotees. The conclusion is that one should serve the Vaishnavas. All kinds of Vaishnavas we should do service. One should serve the dust of their lotus feet, take the remnants of their footstep, and take their instructions, because all of these things possess that same Ladini Shakti. Then we will become free from all these impediments to our spiritual life. We can also remember to read and study pastimes concerning the particular demons which are representative of these disturbing elements, specifically deceit, which is Bakasura. So in the sixth purport, we saw Bakabid, the sixth verse, fifth verse, we saw that Bakabid. Don't forget to call out, "Oh servants of Killer Baka." Read that story in Krishna book and hear that particular pastime. So just regular reading of Krishna book, of Krishna killing the demons, is purifying. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his other works, the Chaitanya Shikshamrit, the Krishna Samhita, and in other works also, specifically, graphically brings out what anartha each of these demons represents. And hearing Krishna Leela from that perspective also will help us to figuratively understand how each of these anarthas, each of these demons represents a specific anartha. And by hearing these pastimes, we will become free from these anarthas. The other three qualities which we read about happening to the Parinishta, Nirapeksha, and the Swanishta due to speculation, fault finding, and argumentation, those anarthas are represented by Trinavrat, Aghasur, and Trinavat again. So speculation is referred to Trinavat, fault finding to Aghasur, and argumentation to, again, Trinavat. Also, this quote from Padma Puran, which everyone should know. Aradhanam sarvesham Vishnuraradhanam param tasmat parataram devi tadiyanam samarjanam. Of all kinds of all the different kinds of worship, Aradhanam sarveshanam, worship of Supreme Lord Vishnu is the highest. Vishnuraradhanam param. But even greater than this, tasmat parataram devi is the worship of his pure devotees. Tadiyanam samarjanam. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur also quoted this, Maharaj is quoting. That Tadiya is even better. Again, Srimad Bhagavatam, this same Bhaktivinoda Thakur had also quoted. Yat sevaya bhagavata utasta madudvisha rati raso bhavetivra adayor vesanam ardana. By serving the feet of the spiritual master, Yat sevaya bhagavata, one is enabled to develop transcendental ecstasy in the service of the personality of Godhead. Rati raso bhavetivra, who is the unchangeable enemy of the Madhu demon. Utasta Madhu Disha, and whose service vanquishes one's material distress. Padayor Vesanam Ardana. In this connection, Rupa Goswami makes a very important point in the conclusion of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, where he says, all the different aspects of devotional service which are stated in Nectar of Devotion all pertain to Krishna. In other words, he explained how to make advancement by one way or another in relationship to the Lord. Then he also says, all the different aspects of devotional service to the Supreme Lord, which have been discussed in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, also relate to serving the Vaishnavas. So this point we already discussed yesterday. So whatever is being spoken, these limbs of devotion with relationship with Lord, the same is applicable to pure Vaishnavas. In other words, whatever is described in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu in relationship to Krishna, you can do the exact same thing in relation to Vaishnavas. He continues, this is the opinion of Panditas. This is the opinion of the Panditas. To conclude our commentary on this verse, here is the quote from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which Bhaktivinoda Thakur quotes at the end of his commentary to verse 7, describing a pure devotee. This is the nature of a real Vaishnava. Ever since that person, now this is the quote, whose body was washed by tears flowing from his eyes, whose body was decorated with multitudes of hair standing on end due to ecstasy, faltering as he walked, who was experiencing ecstasy within himself, who exhibited symptoms such as great shivering of the body, etc., has entered the path of my vision. I do not know what has happened. my mind simply refuses to take interest anymore in household affairs. So we discussed yesterday this verse, how when a Premi Bhakta, somebody takes a darshan, even a Grahastha takes darshan, he experiences that ecstasy in the heart, and now he becomes indifferent to family life. I remember one devotee told me, as a student, you know that when you're young, students, boys are attracted to girls, and this is a natural attraction. Shankaracharya says, Balavastha Krida Sakta. When you're a child, you're, attached to playing. Tarunavastha Tarunya Asakta. And when you're a young boy, the male is attracted to the female is attracted to the male. And Vriddhavastha Chinta Sakta. When you become old man, you're always Chinta Sakta. You're always in anxiety. What will happen to my grandchildren? What will happen to my property? So that's how your material life is. Material life means childhood playing, in youth attraction of the opposite sex, and in old age anxiety. Old age anxiety. So this boy was telling me that, I was always attracted, to the opposite sex. And somehow, I heard a sadhu's lecture, and hearing that lecture, I was very attracted to the lecture. And this sadhu was, driving by in a car, and this boy was also on a two-wheeler driving in the opposite direction. And while driving, he suddenly had the darshan of the sadhu, and he was attracted very much to the sadhu. And he just could not understand what happened. Always the case has been that I get attracted to the opposite sex, but this time I'm attracted to the sadhu. And he started wondering what happened, how is that my heart is attracted to, a sadhu. And that attraction was very unique. So the sadhus carry Krishna in their heart. And this attraction which this boy had was not the ordinary attraction of the male and the female in this world, by which everyone is entangled in this material world. The whole material world is shackled by the attraction of this male and female. So because this sadhu was carrying Krishna in his heart, this attraction was actually towards Krishna. And this boy ultimately, later on went and joined and became a monk. So, this is what happens. And we saw this verse yesterday. So the last point is, this is the nature of a real Vaishnava. This is who is a real Vaishnava. So because this sadhu was carrying the Lahadini potency in his heart, and this attraction was not the ordinary attraction. This attraction is coming from the spiritual realm, from the spiritual potency, from the Lahadini potency. So that completes Shivram Swami Maharaj commentary. Any questions or clarifications till now what we discussed? Okay, so tomorrow onwards, the next section onwards, we will discuss the commentary of His Holiness Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj. It is a exhaustive discussion, and it will take us at least 3 to 4 classes. It's very important. Maharaj will bring out again very graphically the whole psychology of how this Pratishtha Asha works in our heart. So that will continue our discussion in our continuing classes on Manah Shiksha. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami ki Jai. Shri Manah Shiksha ki Jai. Hare Krishna.